The meditation retreat in Sedona was supposed to fix everything. That's what the website promised. 7 days of silence, organic meals, and guided self-discovery for $3,200. I sat cross-legged on a bamboo mat, trying to focus on my breathing while my knees screamed in protest. Around me, 12 other women in expensive yoga pants searched for their authentic selves. 4 years. That's how long I'd been searching. 4 years since I'd walked out of my house in Austin, leaving Theo standing in our kitchen with a coffee mug in his hand and confusion in his eyes. 4 years of yoga retreats and life coaches and vision boards. 4 years of finding absolutely nothing except debt and loneliness. The retreat leader, a woman named Astrid, who claimed to have found enlightenment in Peru, rang a small bell. Time for walking meditation. I unfolded my aching legs and followed the group outside into the Arizona heat. We were supposed to walk mindfully, feeling each step, being present in the moment. All I felt was regret. My phone was locked in a drawer back at the registration desk. No distractions allowed. But I didn't need my phone to see Theo's Instagram. I'd memorized his last post from 2 weeks ago. Him and his new girlfriend, Camilla, at some food truck festival in Austin. She was 28, worked in tech, had the kind of natural beauty that didn't need filters. They looked happy. The caption read, "Found my adventure partner." 247 likes. I'd counted. "Breathe into the discomfort," Astrid said, floating past in her white linen dress. "Your resistance is where your growth lives." My resistance lived in a studio apartment in East Austin, $1,400 a month, with a view of a parking lot. My growth apparently lived somewhere between my maxed-out credit cards and my dwindling savings account. But sure, I'd breathe into it. The other women seemed to be having transformative experiences. During our evening sharing circle, they talked about breakthroughs and revelations and feeling connected to their true purpose. When it was my turn, I said something vague about releasing old patterns. What I wanted to say was that I'd paid $3,200 to sit in the desert and realize I'd thrown away the best thing in my life for a midlife crisis dressed up as self-discovery. That night, lying on the thin mattress in my small room, I let myself remember the beginning. Not of the end, but of everything good I'd destroyed. Theo and I had met 15 years ago at a barbecue in Zilker Park. I was 26, fresh out of graduate school with a master's in psychology I wasn't sure what to do with. He was 28, working as a carpenter, building custom furniture in a workshop he rented in South Austin. Our friends had tried to set us up for months, but we'd both resisted. Then I saw him across the park, laughing at something his dog had done, and felt that shift that happens when you know your life is about to change. We moved in together after 8 months. Bought our house in Crestview after 2 years. Nothing fancy, just a 1950s bungalow with good bones and terrible wallpaper. We spent weekends stripping paint and arguing about tile patterns and turning that house into our home. Theo built us a dining room table from reclaimed wood. I painted the bedroom walls a pale blue that caught the morning light. We talked about kids but kept putting it off. Next year, we said, after the kitchen renovation, after my practice was more established, after Theo finished his big commission. Next year became 5 years, became 10 years, and then it didn't matter because I was 37 and restless and convinced that life was passing me by. The signs had been there for months before I left. I'd scroll through social media, seeing friends traveling to Bali, or starting new careers, or posting about their spiritual awakenings. Meanwhile, I was living the same life I'd lived at 30, same house, same partner, same routine of Saturday morning farmers markets and Sunday afternoon movies. Same Theo, dependable and kind and completely content with our quiet life. "Don't you want more?" I'd asked him one night over dinner. "More what?" He'd looked genuinely puzzled. "We have everything." "Everything?" "We have a house and jobs and a routine, but what about passion, adventure, growth?" "I thought we were happy," he said quietly. "Happy isn't enough," I told him. "I need to find myself." Looking back, it was such a cliché. The kind of thing people say when they've been reading too many self-help books and following too many lifestyle influencers. But at the time, it felt profound. I was drowning in suburban comfort, suffocating in stability. I needed to discover who I was outside of being Theo's girlfriend, outside of our comfortable life. The leaving itself was almost anticlimactic. No big fight, no dramatic scene. I simply told him I needed space to figure out who I was. He asked how much space. I said I didn't know. He asked if I was coming back. I said I didn't know that either. Is there someone else? His voice had been steady, but his hands shook as he set down his coffee mug. No, this is about me. Okay. That's all he said. Okay. Like I'd told him I was going to the store instead of ending our 12-year relationship. I moved into a furnished apartment downtown, telling myself it was temporary, just until I figured things out. I threw myself into self-discovery with the enthusiasm of someone who'd been given permission to be selfish. Therapy twice a week, yoga every morning, journaling workshops and creative writing classes, and a brief, embarrassing attempt at improv comedy. I dated, because isn't that what you do when you're finding yourself? A series of men who were everything Theo wasn't. Luis, the bartender who played guitar in a band and lived on his friend's couch. David, the tech entrepreneur who talked about disrupting industries and never asked about my day. Raj, the yoga instructor who spoke in inspirational quotes and turned out to be sleeping with half his class. Each relationship ended the same way. Me realizing that different wasn't better, just different. That excitement wasn't the same as happiness. That passion without foundation was just noise. But I was too proud to admit I'd been wrong. Too committed to my journey of self-discovery to turn back. I told myself I just hadn't found the right situation yet, the right practice, the right guru, the right version of myself. Meanwhile, Theo quietly rebuilt his life. Our mutual friends tried to keep me updated at first before I made it clear I didn't want to hear about him, but information filtered through anyway. He'd kept the house, adopted a dog from the shelter, expanded his workshop, started teaching woodworking classes on weekends. The first time I saw him with someone else was 8 months after I left. I was at Whole Foods, standing in the cheese section, when I spotted them by the prepared foods. Theo and a woman I didn't recognize laughing about something as they picked out salads. She was pretty in an understated way. Short brown hair, no makeup, wearing jeans and one of Theo's flannel shirts. I abandoned my basket and left through the back exit, sitting in my car until my hands stopped shaking. That night I went through her social media like a detective. Rebecca, graphic designer, divorced, no kids, liked hiking and farmers markets, and apparently my ex-boyfriend. They dated for about 6 months. Long enough for her to appear in family photos at his sister's wedding. Long enough for me to torture myself with their happiness. Then it ended, and I felt relief so intense it should have told me everything I needed to know about my feelings. But still, I persisted in my journey. I quit my therapy practice, deciding that I couldn't help others until I'd helped myself. I became a life coach instead, which required a 6-week online certification and the ability to post inspirational quotes on Instagram. Follow your truth. Your only limit is you. The magic happens outside your comfort zone. The irony wasn't lost on me. I was teaching other women to find themselves while I was more lost than ever. But they paid $90 an hour to hear me validate their choices, to tell them that leaving their comfortable lives was brave, that choosing themselves wasn't selfish. 2 years passed, then 3. I moved apartments twice, each time convinced that a new view would spark the transformation I was chasing. I traveled to Costa Rica and Thailand and Portland, taking photos of myself in yoga poses on beaches and mountains, posting about gratitude and presence while feeling neither. My 40th birthday came and went with a small dinner at a restaurant I couldn't afford. My friends, the new ones, because the old ones had chosen Theo in the unspoken divorce of our social circle, toasted to my courage and authenticity. I smiled and thanked them and went home alone to my empty apartment and cried until I threw up. That's when I started checking Theo's social media more regularly. He'd dated a few other women over the years, but nothing that lasted. part of me, the selfish, horrible part, was glad. It meant maybe what we'd had was special. Maybe he was waiting. Maybe I could still go back. Then Camilla appeared. The first photo was from 4 months ago. A group shot at someone's barbecue, her sitting next to him, both laughing at something off camera. Natural, easy, the way we used to be. More photos followed. Hiking trips, concerts, dinners at restaurants we used to go to. She moved into the house, my house, 2 months ago. He'd built her a garden bed in the backyard, right where I'd always said I wanted one. Which brings me back to this meditation retreat, sitting in a circle of women who paid too much money to sit in silence and call it growth. Astrid was talking about releasing attachments, about letting go of who we thought we were supposed to be. Your authentic self is already within you, she said in her breathy voice. You just have to remove everything that isn't truly you. But what if I'd already done that? What if I'd removed everything? Theo, our home, our friends, our life, and discovered that without those things, there was nothing left? What if my authentic self was just a woman who'd had everything and threw it away because she thought happiness wasn't enough? The retreat ended with a ceremony. We were supposed to write down what we were releasing and burn the papers in a small fire. I stared at my blank piece of paper for a long time. What was left to release? I'd already let go of everything that mattered. Finally, I wrote, "The person who left." The smoke stung my eyes as I watched the paper burn. Or maybe those were tears. It was hard to tell anymore. I drove back to Austin in my 12-year-old Honda, the same car Theo had helped me buy when my previous one died. The air conditioning had stopped working last summer, but I couldn't afford to fix it. 5 hours through the desert with the windows down, my carefully styled hair whipping around my face. My apartment felt smaller after a week away. Sadder. I'd tried to make it cozy with string lights and plants, but it still looked like what it was. A temporary space that had become permanent because I didn't know where else to go. I unlocked my phone to find 17 work emails and 3 texts from clients canceling their sessions. My life coaching business was failing, probably because it's hard to inspire others when you radiate disappointment. It's hard to sell your best life when you aren't even living an okay one. The successful coaches were the ones who could point to their own transformations, their own happiness. All I had were Instagram posts that sounded increasingly hollow and a dwindling bank account. That night, I did something I'd promised myself I wouldn't do. I drove to our old neighborhood, parked down the street from the house, just to see, just to remember. The house looked the same but different. New paint on the shutters, sage green instead of the navy we'd chosen. The garden bed Theo built for Camilla was thriving with vegetables and flowers. Through the window, I could see them in the kitchen, cooking dinner together, music playing, dancing a little as they moved around each other with practiced ease. This was supposed to be my life. That kitchen where I'd had coffee 10,000 mornings. That man who'd loved me exactly as I was. That simple, beautiful existence I'd dismissed as not enough. I stayed until the lights went out, then drove home through streets that used to be mine. Everything familiar but foreign now. The coffee shop where Theo and I had our first date. The park where we'd gotten engaged. The life I'd walked away from because I thought there was something better waiting. 4 years. 4 years of searching for myself only to discover I'd been complete all along. 4 years of meditation and self-help and spiritual wandering that led me right back to where I started, except now I was on the outside looking in at the life someone else was living. My phone rang as I pulled into my apartment complex. My mother calling for our weekly check-in that always left us both frustrated. "How was the retreat?" she asked. "Transformative," I lied. "That's wonderful, honey. And have you thought more about what we discussed? About maybe reaching out to Theo?" "Mom, he's with someone." "I know, but..." "He's happy. That's what matters." Silence on her end. Then, "What about your happiness?" I'm working on it, I said. I'm finding myself. Sweetheart, she said gently, maybe you've been looking in the wrong places. After we hung up, I sat in my car in the dark parking lot, engine off, windows down. Somewhere in the complex, someone was playing music too loud. A couple was arguing in Spanish 2 apartments over. The dumpster smell mixed with someone's takeout curry. This was my authentic life, the one I'd chosen. Inside my apartment, I opened my laptop and scrolled through my Instagram. 4 years of documentation. Sunrise yoga photos, inspirational quotes over mountain backdrops, smoothie bowls and journal pages, and carefully staged moments of contemplation. 2,300 followers who thought I had answers, who believed my captions about growth and journey and becoming. I started deleting them, one by one at first, then in batches. 4 years of pretending erased in 45 minutes. When I was done, my account was empty, except for one photo. An old one I'd posted years ago. Theo and me at the farmer's market, him carrying a bag of peaches, me laughing at something he'd said. The caption just said Saturday mornings. It was the last time I remembered being genuinely happy without trying. My 40th year had been about acceptance, according to my life coach training. Accepting who you are, where you are, what you are. My 41st year, apparently, would be about accepting what you've lost. I pulled out a notebook, not my gratitude journal or my manifestation workbook, just a regular notebook, and started writing. Not inspirational nonsense or self-help platitudes, just the truth. I had been happy. Theo had loved me. Our life had been enough, more than enough. I'd thrown it away because I'd confused contentment with complacency, stability with stagnation. I'd gone looking for myself and discovered that myself was just a woman who didn't know how good she had it until it was gone. There was no inspiring ending to this story. No last-minute reconciliation. No profound awakening that made it all worthwhile. Just a 41-year-old woman in a studio apartment, finally understanding that finding yourself sometimes means admitting you were never lost. Just ungrateful. I closed the notebook and got ready for bed. Tomorrow, I had 3 life coaching sessions scheduled. I'd probably cancel them. It was time to stop pretending I had answers. Time to stop selling transformation to other women when my own had led me nowhere. The meditation retreat had been right about one thing. The authentic self was already within. Mine was just a lot less impressive than I'd hoped. A woman who'd had love and asked for more. Who'd had happiness and called it settling. Who'd had a partner willing to build her a life and left to build one alone. 4 years of finding myself. Turns out, I wasn't worth finding. But Theo, stable, kind, content Theo, had been worth keeping. I just hadn't known it until someone else figured it out. Camilla with her vegetable garden and her easy laugh and her appreciation for everything I'd taken for granted. I turned off the lights and lay in the dark, listening to the sounds of my neighbors living their lives. Tomorrow would come with its bills and its loneliness, and its reminder that choices have consequences. I'd face it the way I'd faced every day for 4 years, pretending it was what I wanted, while knowing it was what I deserved. The meditation retreat had promised transformation. I suppose I got it. I'd transformed from a woman who had everything into a woman who had nothing but the knowledge of what she'd lost. $3,200 to learn what staying would have taught me for free. That finding yourself means nothing if you lose everyone else in the process. My authentic self, it turns out, was just a fool who'd left the only person who'd ever really known her. And now someone else was sleeping in the bed he'd bought us for our 10th anniversary, waking up to the life I'd abandoned, loving the man I'd told I needed space from. Space. I had so much of it now, a whole apartment, a whole life of it. Enough space to finally see clearly what I'd been too close to appreciate. I picked up my phone one last time, scrolling to Theo's number. Still saved under home because I'd never been able to change it. My thumb hovered over the call button. What would I say? That I was sorry? That I'd been wrong? That finding myself had just been code for being selfish and scared and stupid? I put the phone down. He'd found someone who didn't need to find herself because she already knew her worth. Someone who saw that Saturday morning farmers markets and Sunday afternoon movies were enough. More than enough. Everything. The traffic on I-35 hummed in the distance. Austin living its life without me, Theo living his life without me. Everyone moving forward while I stayed frozen in the space I'd created, finding nothing but the echo of my own mistakes. 4 years. 41 years old, alone. And finally, terribly, clearly aware that I'd been found all along. I just hadn't known it was something worth keeping. The next morning brought a text from my landlord. Rent was going up again. $1,600 starting next month for this box with peeling linoleum and a bathroom door that didn't close properly. I did the math I'd been avoiding. At this rate, I'd be broke within 6 months. My life coaching clients were dropping like flies, probably sensing the desperation that clung to me like cheap perfume. I called my best friend from college, Melissa. We'd lost touch when I'd started my journey of self-discovery, but desperation makes you brave. Hello? Her voice was cautious. It had been 2 years since we'd talked. Mel, it's me. I know. Your number's still saved. A pause. How are you? The lie died in my throat. I'm not good. Where are you living now? East Austin, a studio. Oh, that single syllable held so much pity. Melissa knew what I'd given up. She'd been at our housewarming party, had celebrated our anniversaries, had called Theo and me relationship goals. I heard about Theo and Camilla, I said, needing to acknowledge the elephant. Yeah, she's really nice. We had dinner with them last week. She made this incredible... She stopped. Sorry. No, it's fine. Tell me. She made this incredible Thai curry. From scratch. They're turning your old craft room into a nursery. The phone slipped from my hand. I scrambled to pick it up, hearing Melissa's voice asking if I was still there. A nursery? My voice came out strangled. They're not pregnant yet. Just planning. Theo built this beautiful crib. You know how he is with woodworking. I did know. He'd built a jewelry box for my 30th birthday, spent 3 weeks getting the hidden compartments just right. It was probably in a landfill now, thrown out with everything else from my old life that I'd deemed unnecessary. I had told him I didn't want things. I wanted experiences. Now I had experiences, and she had the house, the man, and the jewelry box. After I hung up with Melissa, I sat on my unmade bed and really looked at my apartment. 41 years old and living like a college student. Mattress on the floor because I couldn't afford a bed frame. Clothes in plastic bins because a dresser seemed too permanent. My dinner from last night, a half-eaten cup of instant noodles, sat on the floor. Kitchen counter cluttered with self-help books I'd stopped reading and supplements that promised energy but delivered nothing. The only living thing besides me was a succulent on the windowsill, and even that was dying. I thought about Theo building a crib. His hands, careful and patient, creating something that would hold their child. The family I'd said I wasn't ready for. The life I'd said wasn't enough. My neighbor's cat meowed outside my door. Mrs. Chen... No, I couldn't use that name. Mrs. Patterson fed the stray cats every morning, and they gathered like a prophecy of my future. I opened the door, and one slipped inside. A mangy orange thing with one eye. "Get out," I said half-heartedly. The cat ignored me, jumping onto my bed and settling in like it belonged there. This was it. The beginning. First 1 cat, then 2, then 10. I'd become that woman, the one neighbors whispered about, the one who smelled like cat litter and loneliness, who died alone and wasn't found for weeks until the smell got too bad. I'd gone to a psychic once, during the worst of my searching phase. She'd told me I was on the verge of great transformation. that my authentic path was revealing itself. $50 to hear what I wanted to hear. She hadn't mentioned that the transformation would be from loved to alone, from chosen to choosing cats. The cat meowed again, and I found myself pouring milk into a bowl. Another bad decision in a life full of them. But at least the cat would stay. Unlike everyone else I'd pushed away in my quest to find something that didn't exist. I opened my laptop and checked my bank account. $3,400. That's what 4 years of finding myself had left me with. $3,400 and a dying succulent, and now apparently a one-eyed cat. On Facebook, my former sister-in-law had posted photos from a family barbecue. There was Theo, flipping burgers, Camilla beside him wearing the apron I'd bought him that said Grill Master. My mother-in-law, former mother-in-law, had her arm around Camilla. The family that had welcomed me, loved me, became mine, had seamlessly replaced me with someone better. I scrolled to the comments. "You look so happy." Perfect couple. When's the wedding? Wedding? Of course there would be a wedding. Theo would propose properly this time, not like with me where we'd just agreed marriage made sense after 5 years together. He'd planned something romantic for Camilla, build her something beautiful, give her the fairy tale I'd said I didn't need because I was too evolved for traditional romance. The one-eyed cat had made itself comfortable on my pillow. I lay down beside it, staring at the water stain on my ceiling that looked like a map of nowhere. This was my authentic life. This was what finding myself looked like. A studio apartment, a stray cat, and the growing certainty that I'd die alone. I thought about calling my mother, but I couldn't bear another conversation about my choices. She'd stopped saying, "I told you so," after year 2, but her silence was worse. The careful way she avoided mentioning Theo, the way she changed the subject when I talked about my journey. "At least you're being true to yourself," she'd say, the same way you'd tell someone their terrible haircut was interesting. True to myself, whatever that even meant anymore. My true self, apparently, was someone who sabotaged happiness because it came too easy, who mistook contentment for settling, who threw away a man who loved her because some Instagram influencer said comfort zones were where dreams went to die. The cat purred against my neck. At least someone was happy with my choices. I closed my eyes and let myself imagine the alternate timeline. The one where I'd stayed, where I'd been grateful instead of restless. Theo and I would have had kids by now. 2, maybe 3, living in our house with the good bones and the garden bed he'd have built for me years ago. Saturday mornings at the farmer's market with a toddler on his shoulders. Sunday movies with our family piled on the couch I'd reupholstered myself. Instead, I had meditation retreats that drained my savings and self-help books that gathered dust and a contact list full of people who'd stopped returning my calls. I had freedom, which was just another word for nobody caring where you were. I had independence, which meant there was no one to notice when you cried yourself to sleep. The worst part was the clarity. At 37, I'd been so sure I was missing something. At 41, I knew exactly what I'd been missing. The ability to see that what I had was enough. More than enough. Everything. But clarity without the ability to change anything was just torture. Like being locked in a room with a window showing the life you threw away. Watching someone else live it. Love it. Appreciate it the way you should have. I sat up and opened my laptop again. Maybe there were other life coaching jobs. Maybe I could rebrand. But who was I kidding? You can't inspire others when you radiate regret. You can't teach happiness when you've forgotten what it feels like. You can't guide people to their authentic selves when yours turned out to be a cautionary tale. The cat stretched and knocked over my water glass. As I cleaned up the mess with my last paper towel, I laughed. Not a happy laugh. The kind that comes when you realize your life has become a cliché. 41, broke, alone, and now with a cat. By 50, I'd have 6 more. By 60, I'd be the one people cross the street to avoid. "Welcome to your authentic life," I told the cat. Hope you like ramen noodles and regret, because that's all that's on the menu. 4 years of searching for myself, and all I'd found was the understanding that some people are meant to be loved, and others are meant to serve as warnings. I was the warning. The woman who had everything and threw it away for nothing. Somewhere across Austin, Thea was probably making breakfast for Camilla, building their future while I sat in the ruins of our past, finding joy in the life I'd abandoned, proving every day that the problem had never been our life. The problem had always been me.